I'm going to show you how to use an app that's going to help you level up your process of coming up with video ideas, making content in general, and organizing all of the stuff that you're doing. And we're starting right now. What is going on? My name is Nick from tubertools.com. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here and you want to learn how to grow your channel, make videos and all types of other YouTube related stuff, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Okay, so I had the opportunity to sit down with my friend Steve Dotto, who is really good at organizing and being efficient at things and building systems and things like that so that you can really streamline what it is that you're doing. And during that conversation, he showed me some really cool ways that he's using Evernote to help him organize video ideas, help him organize screenshots and things like that that you might be using in videos, and a whole bunch of other stuff using Evernote. Since he was showing me some really cool stuff, I was like, Steve, you need to come on the channel and share this information. So here's the conversation that I had with Steve that will help you get better with all of the organizational stuff that you're doing on YouTube. Steve, thanks for coming on the channel, man. I really appreciate it. I'm super pumped for you to share your information about Evernote with the viewers here today. So I just wanted to give you a quick thanks for coming onto the channel.
Well, it's a thrill to be here, Nick. I'm a big fan of everything you guys do. I have learned so much. So it's a dream come true for me to get to contribute back to your community a bit.
Very cool, man. So let's dig into Evernote and show us what it is, the power of Evernote and the awesome ways that you use Evernote.
And we'll specifically talk to content creators, because here's the thing that we all do. Each of us builds our own productivity system over our lifetime. And no two productivity systems are the same. I mean, the way that you pull your content together, the way that you run your life is totally different than I run my life. And that's great, but it means that the tools that we use, we actually apply in different ways. But in my mind, Evernote is probably the single most valuable tool in my entire productivity system. And it has been for a long time. And I believe it's a tool that's enabled me to create far more content more effectively than I ever could before. So I'm going to start by explaining to you just quickly my concept of Evernote, because everybody looks at Evernote and they think, okay, it's a digital notebook. They see the advertising that says it's your digital brain. I don't really love that term. But I think we all recognize that it's like a digital notebook where you can store information.
Okay.
But I like to look at it differently. Here's the challenge that we all have. When you see something that's valuable, Nick, what do you do with it? Like if you stumble across a really good review of a product and you say, that's something that I should do in an upcoming episode. Where do you put that? So that you can find it again in the future.
If I find it on my phone, typically I will take a screenshot in my phone so that I'll randomly run across it in my photos. Or if I'm on a computer, then in that particular situation, I'll add it to my bookmarks. Sometimes, depending on what it is, I'll add it to my bookmarks on my phone as well. But typically that's what I do with it.
What? You use bookmarks? Oh
yeah.
my God. So a lot of people are going to go, yeah, that sounds really reasonable. A lot of people use bookmarks.
You're making me feel like I'm doing it the wrong way.
I'm not criticizing you, but I am in a backhanded kind of way. But here's the deal. So often we've saved stuff and we don't remember where we saved it. It actually creates anxiety at 2 points. We see something valuable and go, I need this, but I don't need it now. I need it in a month. So now it creates some anxiety. Where am I going to put it so I can find it? And a lot of people do use bookmarks or they use documents, but they forget which one they put it in. They send an email to themselves. They do all these different systems. And sometimes they work. And if you're really disciplined, they work. But sometimes they don't work. Often they don't work. And they create stress and they cost us time at two different spaces. The first thing they do is they actually create a little bit of stress. When you see something valuable, you have a moment of stress where you go, where am I going to save this so I can find it again? So Evernote, to me, I call it my digital bank account. It's where I store all the valuable bits of information, and it's where I go to withdraw it. And what it does is it reduces the stress because I always know exactly where it is because I can store it in Evernote. And Evernote has very powerful search functionality, so you can go and you can find it again very quickly at any time in the future. But by only having one place that I store everything, I reduce the stress of worrying about where it is. And I also make it very accessible to me coming back. That's in its simplest form. But then if we think about it as a bank account, then we realize that the more we invest in it, the more equity we have, the more value we have over time, which is why you find so many people that are raving fans of Evernote. And Evernote went through a little bit of a tough time about a year and a half ago with management. And there were so many people just pulling out their hair because they've invested so much in Evernote that if it was to go away, rebuilding a system with all of this data and all this content that they have saved over the years into another system was a real hardship for us to consider. So think about it as that digital bank account. And then we can talk about the mechanisms that make it work. But that's the mindset that you need to have when you look at a tool like this
Okay.
is if and of course the ubiquitous nature, the fact that Evernote is on your phone with the same data set and on your tablet and on your computer, you can get access. I always say to get access to what you need, where you need it, when you need it.
So to back that up a second, so basically what you're saying is with the app and with the website, how you store both of those, basically everything's synced up between the two devices or multiple devices. If I'm on my iPad, I have it there. If I'm on my phone, I have it there. If I'm on my computer, then I have it there.
With one caveat, they are. And it's all synced through Evernote's cloud services.
Okay.
One caveat is that the Premier version is required to sync more than 2 devices.
Okay.
So you have to pay for the version, which, as far as I'm concerned, I want to pay for Evernote. It's $100 a year or something like that, typically speaking. And people go, why would you want to pay for it? Because I want the company to be around. I rely on it. It's my partner. It's my digital bank account. I pay banking fees because I want my bank to be there because they force me to, frankly. It's not a very fair analogy. But I'm happy to pay for a tool that's as important to me as Evernote. In fact, I want to, because I want them to be viable and vibrant and constantly developing and supporting the product. One cool aspect of that is the fact that everything's synced through cloud services is you can actually end up using Evernote as a publishing platform because every one of your notes actually is a web page. And so with a little flip of the switch, you can actually use it as a publishing platform to publish content and share content. And I often use it as a collaborative tool where I'm sharing with other people that I'm working with. If you're going to be a guest on one of my webinars or something like that, we send you a shared Evernote link, which has all of the details rather than any other way, because I can modify the details on my side and they all change on your side when you access it just through a web browser. You don't even have to have Evernote. So let me show you just the single most valuable asset that Evernote has for those of us that create video content. Let's say that, and actually I'm doing some research on this now. I know you've got one there in your studio, so I'm going to be picking your brain about it later, but I'm looking at buying a new audio interface, and the Rodecaster Pro looks so darn sexy. But here is a great review of it that this person's done that gives me that I want to save for the future. So you would clip this bookmark and you would stick the bookmark in your bookmarks folder, and then you'd have to try and find it and negotiate back to it at some point, which is fine. Evernote has one of the most powerful additional kind of web tools that I've ever seen. It's called the Evernote Web Clipper. It's just the best clipping tool on the planet. And here's how it works. It installs in every browser, and right there at the top of my screen, I've got this access to the Web Clipper. When I click on the Web Clipper, it launches this tool here that you see right here, which is the Evernote Web Clipper. It's the most sophisticated clipper. Many different notebooks have these kind of clipping tool utilities, but you can see here that I can choose the format of the article that I want to save. So I can save the page as a full page, but watch what happens if I choose the simplified article. It will then strip out the advertising and all of the ancillary information.
Oh, nice.
And make it a much cleaner document to save, because I'm just interested in this information. I can also save it as a bookmark. I can save it as a screenshot, and I can use it for markup, and I can mark up the page if I choose to. But I'm just going to say save it as a simplified article, and then within my Evernote account, you set up different notebooks and different tagging structures so that you can create some sort of organizational structure to Evernote, which remind me to come back to before we're done, because that's one of the places most people fall off the bandwagon with Evernote is they overcomplicate things right at the beginning. So I want to address that.
Okay.
But I've got an Evernote account that I've been using for over 10 years. It's got tons of different notebooks and tags to apply context. I can save this into any of the notebooks directly from here. So I can save it into I can in my demo notebook or any of the other. That's what I've got one here called Steve Dotto's Demos, which is where I save all of the content that I want to use for making my own videos on YouTube. So I save that there. You see that?
Yes.
And then I click Save Clip. And what happens is then Evernote takes that content and it clips it and it stores it in my Evernote account in the notebook that I've specified. So if I'm browsing through and I need some ideas for videos, all of the demo ideas that I've got are stored in that notebook. So for me, this process of clipping information in Evernote has become second nature. As soon as I see anything of value, I store it in Evernote. And if I go into all of my notes here, you'll see right here, there it is. There's the note that we just clipped.
Nice.
And even if I'm offline and I've got my account synced up, I can access this note. So it's now in my Evernote account, and I can access it on my smartphone, on my tablet, and I can search on it. One of the other things Evernote does, by the way, if there was any text in any of these images, Evernote will also search on the text of images.
Oh, nice. So this would also be really cool for something like, let's say you're looking around YouTube and you end up seeing, like a thumbnail, and you're like, wow, I really love the design of that thumbnail. That looks fantastic. Or I love the colors or how they did, a certain thing in the thumbnail. You could basically screenshot that, drop it into like a thumbnails folder, and then you could access that when it's time to make your thumbnails, as an example, right?
Absolutely. And you could save that as a notebook, or you could also just save it with tags, which apply context if you don't want to create the structure of notebooks. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people who are watching this video have tried Evernote in the past, and they've slidden off the bandwagon. They've started to use it. They recognize the power, but they don't end up using it because of one thing. When we start to set up any sort of productivity system and you look at a tool like Evernote, you say, holy cow, that is so, it's obviously got an awful lot of potential. So I need to set up a very sophisticated system so that I can find everything in the future. And so now all of a sudden you're trying to create an organizational structure, much like back when we first had our computer. You'd set up in Windows, you'd set up folders and nested folders within folders, and you'd set up a hierarchy so that you could browse through and find the things that you were looking for, and everything was filed, everything in its place.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of what you should do with Evernote. I teach, you'll save a link to a free little tutorial I've got called the Evernote Quick Start, which gets you started using Evernote in a half an hour.
Okay.
And what I recommend in the Quick Start is you start Evernote without any infrastructure in Evernote. You just have a notebook, and you save everything into that notebook, and you trust Evernote search to find it. Later on, after you've used Evernote for weeks or months and you start to have content that kind of fits in proper families, you can start to parse out individual notebooks. But for the most part now, just save information in Evernote and don't worry about creating an infrastructure. It's the creating an infrastructure and trying to put everything in its place that causes people to basically stop using it, because they don't feel that they have enough time to invest in creating this robust infrastructure. Just like your bank account. You don't worry about, I need those exact $20 that I deposited. I want that same bill back. It's not filed that way. It's just you have access to the asset. You have access to the data. Use Evernote the same way. Evernote search is so powerful that if you store things in Evernote and you get in the Evernote habit of that's the place I go to look for the stuff that I've stored, and that's the place I store stuff, you will very quickly start to recognize that you don't need to add a lot of infrastructure to make it work for you. Now, a lot of people like to, because they don't like to have that messy shoebox environment.
Sure.
But that's something that can grow over time as you start to use it, as you start to get into the Evernote habit. But this web clipper, for those of us who are content creators, is a boon. It's the most valuable, research tool I think any of us will have. So Nick, one thing I want to point out is that you don't have to use Evernote to use a system like this and make it work, as far as having a filing system where you can find everything. You might end up using Google Docs for it, or, there's a variety of different notepad type applications. But I'm going to encourage people to really try and develop the discipline to store valuable content in the same place, to reduce the amount of time that we waste looking for stuff and all of the kind of lost assets of, where you have something good, and just the anxiety it creates, because it actually does create stress.
It really does.
You can't find something that is valuable.
It really does. And when you're in that situation where you're wanting to find that thing and you're kind of on the spot and you're like, yeah, here, let me find that thing really quick so I can show you. And then you're going through and you can't find it in the right bookmark folder and things like that. It does definitely get frustrating, and it can make you look like you are, not organized and all of that when you're trying to share that information with other people as well.
So if this has intrigued people, I really encourage them. You'll share a link to my Evernote Quick Start Guide,
absolutely,
which is a little 30-minute tutorial that you go through. I walk you through setting up Evernote for the first time, and I teach you a technique of creating two types of starting notes to begin with: starter notes and anchor notes. And what it does is it entrenches the value of Evernote in your day-to-day life, beyond your content creation role, but also just within your life. For example, I've got a note that has every filter, every inkjet cartridge in my house. It's got a picture of all of the different, all of the model numbers of all of my different appliances, so that if I'm out shopping and I say, I haven't changed the water filter in my fridge for ages, and I'm at the hardware store, I can say, I don't know what filter it is, but they've got like a gazillion filters. I just open Evernote, look at it, and I can get the proper filter. Same for furnace filters and other types of all of the different consumables in your house. Little things like that, again, makes Evernote your digital bank account where you go to find the information, the asset that you need. It really, it's I don't want to say it's life-changing, but it is productivity changing. It changes the efficiency and reduces the stress that you experience day after day.
That's good. And productivity is definitely underestimated, especially when it comes to content creators and making sure that you are productive. Because if you are organized and you're productive and you're efficient at what it is that you're doing, you're going to be able to put out more content, which is going to help you reach more people. It's going to help your channel grow faster and all that stuff because you're focused, you're organized, and you're able to turn your production into like a well-oiled machine instead of spending, an hour looking around for that one thumbnail shot that you got that you don't really know where you put.
And have you ever been looking through, your computer and gone, found a piece of data and oh geez, I should have put that in that video that I published 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Isn't that frustrating?
It really is.
Oh man, there's lots of downstream benefits from using this kind of an organizational structure.
Now, Steve actually put together a free resource that will help you get started with Evernote, so you can also use this with what it is that you're doing here on YouTube. I'll put a link to that down in the description below. And for even more awesome YouTube tools, you can click here right now. And to learn more about YouTube, make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.